Urban planning, also known as city planning, has to do with designing and developing land use and the environment of a city. It is also paramount to the health and economic stability of the people living in the community. Welcome to the program City Pulse on Housing TV Africa. Today on City Pulse, we'll be delving into the nitty-gritties of city planning for urban development. My guest is standing by to give more in-depth knowledge on today's focus. Please join us after this quick break.
Join us on a captivating experience through the dynamic world of town planning in Nigeria as we delve into the visionary projects and insights of top experts, witnessing the remarkable transformation of spaces into extraordinary communities. Immerse yourself in engaging discussions with leading town planning professionals as you address critical issues and offer innovative solutions to empower communities. Experience the pulse of the cities of tomorrow on City Pulse, a weekly television program presented by the National Institute of Town Planners. Gain exclusive behind-the-scenes looks and discover groundbreaking strategies shaping the urban landscape. Don't miss a beat. Showing weekly on Housing TV Africa. Star Times Channel 149.
Welcome back from that quick break. My guest, Dr. Nora Jesse, the National Public Relations Secretary of the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, is here with me in the studio to discuss city planning and urban development. It's me interested to know that City Pulse is a program brought to you by the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, a town planning association recognized in Nigeria and globally. You're welcome, Dr. Noor. It's nice to have you join me in the studio today.
Thank you, Phoebe, for having me on today's episode of the program.
Okay, you're welcome. Let's quickly begin our discussion. When we talk about city planning for urban development, what do we mean?
Well, the whole essence of planning, and whether you narrow it down to urban development or regional planning and all that, it's for the people. And so whether we're planning towns, we're planning cities, we're planning the regional areas, those essences for us to make a better life, create sustainable settlements, create robust economies, and all of this is tied to the people. So there are different scales of planning. So what you do at the local level in terms of planning is a bit different what you move on to the towns, the regional areas, and all of that. But basically, planning is about people. You're planning in terms of so many things, in terms of the economic development. You're planning in terms of the settlement where they're going to live. You're planning in terms of the infrastructures. You're planning in terms of their heritage and some of those things that connect to environment. So there's a whole lot of things, but the bottom line is you are interested in making a better life for the people in ways in which they can live comfortably, in ways in which they can have functional activities, what you call land uses. By the way, land uses, you're talking about different components, the activities that can take place in a city or town or regional areas, whether in terms of residential land use, whether in terms of recreational land use, places where they can walk, places where they can recreate. So all of this is all tied to planning. But basically, planning is for people, and at all different scales of engagement, you have the people at the center stage of what you're doing.
Okay.
But again, it's important to pin down to the fact that once you mention planning, the public is sort of narrow it down to this sort of physical planning where you're concerned with the ordering of land uses. Ordering of land uses in terms of design, where people are going to live, where people are going to walk, where people are going to recreate. That's okay, but it's much more bigger than just the ordering of land uses or the allocation of spaces.
So for different...
Yeah, it transcends that.
Okay.
And that's what I talk about, the issue of economic development.
Okay.
Yeah, the issue of even expanding the scope to even the regional areas.
Now, I'd like you to delve more into how important it is for us to plan our cities, because we know that there are many disadvantages to unplanned cities. Like take, for instance, slums. Even here in the city of Abuja, we still have slums. And some of these disadvantages can range from flooding, insecurity, and all the rest of them. So would like you to tell us how important it is for cities to be planned appropriately.
Yeah, the advantages of planning our cities are numerous, they're countable. First of all, when you plan your city, you're setting the framework, a future direction of where the city is going to be in the next couple of years, how it's going to be in terms of the timelines, in terms of the milestones, in terms of the expectation. So it gives you a direction where you're going to be, right? So if you don't have a direction, it becomes a problem. So first of all, the advantage is that we have a framework when you plan your cities properly. It tells you where you're going to be. It tells you the activities that are expected. It tells you the actors that need to be part of the process. So the starting point is for us to first of all understand that there needs to be a framework. That framework tells us where we're going to be and all that. So the second advantage is that when you have a planned city, it also gives room or creates a platform for citizen participation, because a planned city articulates the role of the citizen, what they're going to do in the document that sets out the city is going to be.
Okay.
And because cities are for people, the people have to be part and parcel of the planning from day one, through the process and even during the implementation. So having a planned city secondly gives this platform for citizen participation to be at the policy formulation level, to be at implementation level and all of that. So that's number two.
Okay.
Number three is when you have planned cities, because you already have a planned city, you have a planned document that talks about how the city is going to be and all that. It also provides opportunities for investment, right?
Okay.
There are areas of investments, whether in terms of energy, whether in terms of green cities, whether in terms of housing, whether in terms of industrial development and all that. All of these encapsulated in the document that sets out how the city should be. And so that provides opportunities for investment, provides opportunities where people can key in, where government can also invest, and that helps the city to be better.
Okay.
Then fourthly, when you have a planned city, the benefit is also that there are, in terms of functional uses, when functional uses in terms of the compatibility of the uses, it sets out what you call land use. Land use is about where the residential is going to be, where the commercial activities is going to be, where the industrial, where the recreation activities are going to be. So all of these land uses have harmonious relationship. So that's another thing that a planned city offers you. Offers you a robust land use process, offers you a robust functional land uses, and it creates an orderly system. It creates where you have places for connectivity, what you call circulation. For instance, a planned city, I can move here to Kubwa because there are road networks. I can move here to Karu. I can move here to Jikwe because the planned city has now created the sort of linkages, connectivity, right? I can assess certain activities because the planned city has offered me where I can go to where the markets are, where the religious places are, where the recreational places are. So when you don't have a planned city, the whole thing becomes sort of disorderly, sort of chaotic.
It is.
And people will not want to live and invest in that kind of place. So
now, Dr. Noor, let's quickly move. When we talk about planning, we know that planning do not just happen. You know, you don't just wake up to a planned city. There are certain techniques, there are certain things that has to be done for a city to be properly planned. So what are some of the techniques that are needed to plan our cities?
Okay, the word technique, well, we can still relate with that anyway, but generally when it comes to urban planning, whether you call it in techniques or you call it in procedures or you call it in processes, well, we can group them into two. There are techniques that deal with the process, the procedure of how planning should move from one stage to the other, right? it talks about, first of all, identifying the problem.
Of course.
There is a problem which planning is coming to give solution, whether in terms of intervention and all that. There's a problem, goals are set. From the goals, you now have survey work that are done, you bring out design solutions and implementation. That's procedures.
Okay.
And that procedure assumes that there's a rational engagement through which these stages are followed for you to have a robust outcome at the end of the day. Then there are other techniques that, yes, process is important, but more concerned with the issue of substance. What problem can we solve? You know.
Okay.
Yeah. So whether you see techniques from the procedural point of view, or see techniques from sort of the substance of what we need to deal with, still.
Is it relatable?
Yeah, it is, and
Okay.
it's still important. But what is fundamental for us in the Global South, in terms of techniques, is that we should see techniques as something that is context-bound. Context-bound means that there are things within us, there are problems within us, and some of the solutions, when we understand our context, we can now bring out the appropriate techniques to deal with. One, our cities are different. Our cities are not like cities from the West, where you can pick up some of these techniques from the West or nomadic prescriptions and bring them here, right? So when you understand that our cities are different, they're fast, they're energetic, so you now look at issues of techniques that deal with your problems,
Okay.
whether in terms of access to land, whether in terms of informality, and all those sort of things. So the bottom line is that techniques should be context-bound. Techniques should be sort of this sort of anthropological, ethnographic engagement through which you're able to understand your problem within your context and you deal with. And I'm so happy that in the last Urban World Forum 12, that featured prominently, where the whole essence is that you look inward. The solution planning starts at home. It's you're dealing with issues of rising costs, dealing with issues of shelter or housing, dealing with issues of basic infrastructure and all that. So it's got to start. So the bottom line is that there are techniques, but techniques have to be context bound for you to deal with those sort of things. Yeah.
I know that since we have different types of cities, a
Yeah.
certain type of town city planning wouldn't fit to every one of them. So
course.
what are the different types of, you know, city planning, and especially as we have different cities, you know, different lands and all of that. So what are different types of urban planning that can be applied to cities?
First of all, planning is broad, and it cuts across the different sectors, different aspects of humanity. And so if you unpack planning, whether in terms of fiscal planning, where you're dealing with different land uses for recreation, land uses for places of work, land uses for places of religion and all of that. So the different components of these land uses are basically trying to create order where people can live, people can recreate, people can also go to work and come back. So from that segment, you could see the planning is a fiscal engagement, and land use is a critical part of that. You can also see planning from this economic development, where we're concerned with the urban economy of cities, urban economy of regions, urban economy of towns and local areas. Here, planning is very sensitive, and it's quite concerned about the uses to which it puts to land, where different economic activities is going to be. If you pick Abuja, for example, it has different hierarchy of economic activities tied to space. From the central area to the sector to the district centers and neighborhood centers. It's all about creating an order. It's all about looking into the urban economy, looking to where economic activities are going to be within the city and all of that. So the second one, which is the urban economy, is also the segment or that component in which plan is concerned about. Plan is also concerned about the environmental things or the environmental happenings, or the things that are also related to the environment, whether in terms of flooding, in terms of green growth, in terms of heritage and conservation. You know? Yeah. So plan is also interested in infrastructure. What sort of infrastructure are you doing in the cities in terms of where you're going to put the access road, where you're going to put the drainages, the sewer lines, the water and all that. Planning in terms of strategy making, we're also looking into the future, what's going to happen in the next 20 or 30 years and where the cities are going to be, and the actors, the timelines of what's going to happen. So when you talk about segments, there are many segments, whether in terms of fiscal planning, in terms of economic development, in terms of
urban development.
Urban development, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of strategy making. All of these are segments or all critical components that planning is interested. And all of these are tied down to planning. So planning is broad, and it cuts across the different components or segments that you asked me about.
Now let's narrow it down to the Nigerian town planning sector. How would you rate the town planning sector of Nigeria over the past years?
Wow, I think urban planning in Nigeria has done tremendously well. If you see where we're coming from, if you look at what happened from independence to now, what has happened is that as soon as we got independence, what we had were mostly coastal towns, northern towns, that colonial administration bequeathed to us. When you see from there up to now, the sheer number of population, the sheer number of towns have increased, state creations leading to local government headquarters, leading to the states and all that. And planning has had to evolve plans to engage with this expansion, this growth and development of towns and all that, whether in terms of master plans, in terms of layout plans, in terms of development plans. Planning has been there all through, providing robust plans, how these towns will be, these states will be, these regional areas will be and develop. But I think the problem has been not just the lack of robust plans, but the issue of implementation. So on one hand, planning has been active. Planning has been responding to providing directions to where these towns are going to be, where these regional areas are going to be, where the cities are going to be, through master plans, through regional plans that have been done. At a point in time, almost all the states in the country, as soon as we got independence, acquired one form of the master plans. Then later we'll have development plans, first national development plan to all. And all of this planning has been critical. Planning has been providing the framework how the regions would be, the cities would be, the towns would be. But like I said, the problem has been implementation. So
I would like you to hold that thought of implementation being one of the huge challenges that urban planning has faced in Nigeria as we go on a short break. And when we return from that break, we'll continue the conversation. Please stay with us.
This is Housing TV Africa on YouTube and click on the subscribe button. Subscribe to Housing TV Africa to stay updated on latest happenings in Nigeria's housing sector. Follow our social media pages, like and share our posts. On Facebook, Housing TV Africa. On Twitter, Housing TV Africa. Instagram, Housing TV Africa. Join the conversation and keep up with latest housing updates.
Welcome back from that break. In case you're just joining us, this is City Pulse on Housing TV Africa, and I have with me in the studio the National Public Relations Secretary of the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, Dr. Noor Jesse, and we have been discussing on planning cities for urban development. Before we went on that break, we were talking about implementation being one of the major challenges of town planning in Nigeria. Please.
Okay. I was just trying to lay the nexus that here we have plans. It's no lack of plans. We have had robust plans starting from independence, whether in terms of master plans, in terms of national development plans across the different states and regions. You see one form of the plan or all that. But the problem has been implementation. So implementation has been a major problem because of so many factors. One is the issue of policy drift. Policy drift, you're talking about where plans are abandoned, where because of political transitions.
One plan is abandoned, another one comes up.
Yeah, political transitions, changing government and all that. So policy drift has been a major problem for us here in Nigeria, why some of our plans are not implemented, right? Then secondly has been the issue of weak institutions. for you to implement your plans, you need institutions. You need strong institutions that can help you translate the plans into reality. Where institutions are weak in terms of legal framework, where institutions are weak in terms of manpower, where institutions are weak even in terms of funding, it becomes very difficult to implement your plans and all of that. And then thirdly has also been the issue of a political will. Plans need political actions. When you make plans and there is no political will to implement the plans, they're just going to be there, and that has been a problem. Then thirdly has also been some of the global happenings that find their way connect to what's influencing implementation in the country. Let me give you the case of Abuja now. Abuja's planning and in terms of implementations was based on oil. Oil was going to come, the revenue from the oil will now support implementation of the Abuja Master Plan. But because of global oil crisis and all that, that affected the revenue that would have supported implementation of Abuja Master Plan in the 80s and all that. So some of these global happenings or somehow find their way of also influencing implementation. So what is critical is for planners, one, is for the policymakers, is for those who are in charge of institutions and all that, to also begin to see that there's a connection with what is happening outside, and then see how we relate that to some of the plans that we do. But largely, implementation has been a major problem, whether in terms of policy drift, in terms of weak institutions, in terms of lack of willpower, in terms of lack of investment and funding of our plans and all that. And it's a major problem. Otherwise, we'll have had beautiful plans in this country. There have been beautiful master plans across the states. There's no states in the country in the 80s, starting from the 60s, that didn't have one form of the master plan. Even as I speak to you now, there are states that are still involving one form of plan or the other, whether they call it layout plans, whether they call it structure plans, whether they call it master plans. There are beautiful plans, but these plans need to be implemented. And you also need a legal framework. For instance, the urban regional planning law is also very important to be domesticated across the states, so that planners can have the legal backing, the strength to do some of these things.
Now, we know that there are many challenges that are facing urban planning in Nigeria apart from implementation. You know, that is coming from the government. But on the side of the citizens, we know that citizens can actually constitute, you know, challenges for urban planning sector in Nigeria, because we see so many slums across the country, even in the FCT. So what exactly is the problem of some citizens in constituting challenges for urban planning?
Yeah, first of all, we need to underscore that cities are for people, and NITP planning generally tries to plan for the people, to plan with the people, so that you have sustainable settlements, and also they can have productive engagement in the city. So cities are for people, no doubt about that. But in terms of challenges, there are a couple of challenges that, in as much as the cities are for people, that we're having. If you pick Abuja, for instance, you're having issues where people are destroying public infrastructure, vandalizing public infrastructure, destroying sewer lines, cutting off electrical cables and all of that. That's a problem. And in as much as cities are for people, people also need to know that they have responsibility to the growth and development of the cities. When these cities become better developed, it's for everyone, and people can also invest it. So infrastructure destruction is a problem that we're having with not the entire public, but we're having with some people who are really destroying government infrastructure, and that's not too good for us.
Okay.
There are also issues where sometimes you find people building on places where they shouldn't. Places that are preserved, places that should be as floodplains, that are supposed to be left in that pristine state, and people going to build on floodplains, people going to build on natural drainage channels. That's a problem.
Yeah.
When you obstruct natural drainage channels or build on floodplains,
they actually expose themselves to dangers.
Absolutely. You're causing more problems, worsening the situation. Floods are coming both in terms of your properties are destroyed, and also in terms of weakening the economy of the city, because when flooding comes, both the properties of the public, as well as the economy is cut off, infrastructure is cut off. So the little thing you're doing just by building on floodplains or building on natural drainage channels has a multiplier effect on the bigger picture of the city. The infrastructure that you're vandalizing, you're cutting off sewer lines, you're cutting off electrical cables, you're cutting off roads and all that. It's not too good for us. But the bigger picture is cities are for people, and planning, it's concerned about this, and planning will continue to play a critical role where the right of the people, creating better settlements for them, making sure they have productive activities for them to dwell well. It's the focus of planning, which is the people. But people also need to know that there are responsibilities, so that it's a collective action. The government will do its own on its own part. The people also planning will continue to give a voice to the people. Planning will also advise government on what to do. Right. Planning will develop robust plans. Planning will set out implementation framework. Planning will set out the timeline, the milestones, and the different actors of how plans can be implemented. And the public can also be part of this, from the policy formulation to the implementation stage. But there are responsibilities which the public also need to know, especially that of destruction of public infrastructure is not too good, and that of building of floor plans and all that.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Nor. Okay, so on a lighter note, I would congratulate you on your new office as the Public Relations Secretary of the great institution, NITP.
Thank you, Lord.
And we would like you to tell us, what do we look forward to?
What we look for is engagement with the people. Plan is for the people, and the people need to know what the plan is all about. The people need to know what policies government are doing, and the people also need to be part and parcel of these policies. We also want to create the platform where a policy can start from the ground. Starting from the ground means we enlighten the people about their rights, about how they can participate in these policies, how they can also through even the implementation and all that. So one, NITP, what you look out for will be more public engagement, for people to know what plan is all about, which is very important, for people to also engage in the policy arena, where they can be part and parcel of what the government is doing, whether in terms of housing policies, whether policies on urban agriculture, whether policies on climate change, whether policies on land reforms. A lot of things that are going on in the country that planning really wants to create a voice for the public, because cities are for people. So number one, there's going to be more public engagement for people to know what plan is all about. Okay. You know, and then two, there's going to be this sort of public engagement with the policies that governments are doing, whether on housing or all sort of things. The people need to know this. They need to know what's going on. They need to participate and all that. And thirdly, which is also very important again, is planning in terms of NITP. Now we also look at creating this sort of because I want to tie it down to the issue of opportunities. Okay. Cities are for people, not just for people. When people live in cities, there are opportunities and all that. NITP we unpack some of the things that exist in cities, whether how people can key into opportunities in terms of economy, people can key into terms of where they can invest and all that. NITP will create that sort of engagement where you open up to people, that people who are living in cities, these opportunities they can key into and all that. Because it's not just about living in cities, it's also about knowing how you're in city, knowing what sort of productive activities you can engage in. NITP, through engaging with the public and all that, will also let the people know what they can.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Nor Jesse. Yeah. It has been an interesting and engaging session with you here in the studio on the program City Pulse. All right, dear viewers, you've learnt a lot. I've also learnt a lot that while we wait for the government, we should also get in touch with the right agencies to know what planning is all about, because no one would be happy seeing their lands or their houses being demolished because you built it illegally, or just coming to reside where you're not supposed to reside in. So while we wait for implementation from the government, I would suggest that you get in touch with the right agencies. And that is a wrap on City Pulse on Housing TV Africa. You can watch this episode and other episodes on YouTube at Housing TV Africa. You can also follow us on all social media platforms at Housing TV Africa. Don't forget to download the Housing TV Africa mobile app on Google Play Store and App Store to stay connected at all times. I am Phoebe Onwabuje. Thanks for watching and bye for now.